We welcome to Bloomberg's Washington, D.C. studios, Taiwan's representative to the United States, Alexander Tah-ray Yui. Sir, welcome to Bloomberg. Thank you so much for joining us. It was just about 3 weeks ago that we saw the official inauguration of President Lai, who seems, along with the rest of his administration, to be holding the same line on the sovereignty question as the prior administration. And yet the inauguration was met with a pretty robust response militarily from China. Is China overreacting to this new administration?
Well, as President Lai had a Time cover page a couple of days ago where he was interviewed, and they asked the same question. And he said that, PRC's trying to absorb Taiwan into one of them is part of their national policy. So that's their ultimate objective. So they're just trying to find excuses to act up against Taiwan. So a free exercise of democracy in Taiwan, presidential elections, it's a subject of disgust from the Chinese side, and that's why they reacted that way. But we are determined to keep the way we live, the way we are, and to keep every 4 years electing our president, and they like it or, whether they like it or not.
Of course, Taiwan produces 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips. They call it your silicon shield.
Right.
As the U.S. moves to reshore, as we say, semiconductor manufacturing, do you worry that makes Taiwan more vulnerable? Does it increase the risk of conflict with Beijing?
Not at all. I think that there's been debate in Taiwan whether we should keep the shield, as thick as possible by having all the production in Taiwan. But with the advent of AI, which is already part of our lives, but it's just the beginning, and more will be intertwined with our daily lives, AI needs a lot of these super chips. And it's not a matter of, Morris Chang, the founder of TSMC, said it himself, it's not a matter of how many dozens of millions more chips we need, but how many dozens of fabs we need. So the need for the production will be astounding, explosion of need for these super chips. And I don't think we can make them all in Taiwan, because we are, after all, a small island. So putting other plants in other countries where rule-based countries, where rules are followed, we follow we follow the law, we follow the rules, such as the United States, such as Japan, such as Germany. It makes sense. We become part of the production chain. We become partners. And actually, in that way, I think we're better linked and better protected because we're partners. If Taiwan, part of the supply chain, is disrupted, we will all feel the danger and the pain. So actually, interconnection is much better than doing everything by ourselves. Besides, the majority of the production will still be made in Taiwan for the time being, for the foreseeable future.
So how is this administration thinking about balancing investing more in fabs, in Taiwan specifically, versus making these investments in the other countries with which you're referencing?
Well, it's not the government. It's the companies, and they
can do things to incentivize it.
Yes. Actually, the entire semiconductor industry in Taiwan was born out of the incentives from the government. When Dr. Morris Chang was invited by the government to come to Taiwan to realize the idea that he had on how to produce semiconductors. But obviously nowadays the companies they think for themselves, and they, profit margin wise, etc. But also, again, it makes sense, and I think it's a good idea to put the plants where rules are followed. There was some production in mainland China, and some of them are leaving, but for many reasons, economic reasons, hostile environment between Taiwan and mainland China. Mainland China has passed national security laws that infringes on the rights of our citizens. For example, any company or individual aiding and abetting the splittist movements in Taiwan are subject to confiscation of their properties, which means any individual company from Taiwan who are based in China, production, who are paying taxes to the Taiwanese government, they could be subject to those punishments. So obviously, it's a big thing. So putting resources in other countries, it does make sense.
When we consider what's happening in the Taiwan Strait, the tensions, that we've seen over the balance of this administration and going back before that. Your predecessor at times talked about some of the delays that were being experienced in delivering U.S.-provided military aid and weapons systems to Taiwan. The Admiral Paparo, who's in charge of the Indo-Pac command, was speaking to the Washington Post recently about this hellscape strategy that would involve thousands of unmanned submarines, ships, and drones that have yet to be provided, knowing that President Xi has targeted 2027 for his military to be prepared for such an invasion. Are you concerned now that Ukraine is at the front of the line and weapons delays might grow worse?
Well, indeed, many of the weapon systems that was approved to sell by the United States to our country has been delayed. Many of them we already made the necessary payments. We're still waiting delivery, and that's an issue we are constantly talking and coordinating with the U.S. administration. And the U.S. administration is also, in conjunction with Congress, we've thought of different ways to alleviate that process. For example, presidential drawdown authority, which directly, from the president, it gives some of the equipments that are already available, or foreign military financing, which is not only we buy, but also grants that allows us to buy, or even using existing U.S. stockpiles to give it to Taiwan first, and then the money goes back into the U.S. coffers. So we're trying to find different ways to accelerate and equip the necessary military equipment that we need to defend ourselves against possible aggressions. 2027, it's been mentioned a lot. It's sort of like a starting date for Chinese PRC's invasion. Actually, it's a symbolic because it's the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Liberation Army. So it's, but again, we know that they are preparing for the possibility of doing this aggression against Taiwan. But we're also preparing, and with the help of many friends, including the United States, to deal against this possible threat. We have increased our defense budget. We are increasing our, modifying our defense ministries, the way of doing things. And also talking about asymmetric warfare. So we're also adjusting our strategy in how to deal with the island defense of Taiwan, including the whole of society resiliency. It's not only just the military, but also on the civilian side, civil defense. How does the civilian side react in the times of crisis of war? We're looking a lot of examples from Ukraine. Also, warfare today it will be different, starting from the Ukraine scenario. You will not see there will be a drone in every or unmanned system in every war situation nowadays. And that started with Ukraine. So we're adapting, but we're doing our part, but also with the system of the United States. China, will they act or not? We don't know. But as Admiral Paparo said, obviously any concept or any strategy that deals with stopping mainland China from thinking about attacking Taiwan is a good one. So again, there's also been said by other people, says we want to make sure that every day when Xi Jinping wakes up and looks at himself at the mirror before he shaves, he goes, not today. And that's what we're trying to do.
And you need the United States partnership, you say, in doing so. But we don't know who will be leading the United States come January of 2025. How would a second Donald Trump presidency versus another term for Joe Biden play out differently for Taiwan? Because the U.S.-China relationship may be different in nature, and that could ultimately impact you.
Sure. That's the wonder of democracy, that every certain time of period, 4 years, 5 years, we get to elect a new administration or a continuation of this administration. And I feel very warm-hearted to be posted to the United States at this time, because the support that we get from the United States is bicameral and bipartisan. And we have worked with President Trump during his, previously, and during his administration, we've made a lot of advancements between our Taiwan and U.S. relations. A lot of the equipments were sold during President Trump's administration. A lot of the limitations that we had in dealing with the U.S. administration was open during his administration. So we had a very good working relationship. And with President Biden's administration, obviously a lot has also happened. And now we every time we explain how the status of Taiwan-U.S. relations are, we say it's rock solid, and it is. So
you have confidence it will remain.
Whoever will be inaugurated January 20th in the United States, we are very confident that this relationship will continue as is, and very solid, in ever improving.
Well, you know, a lot of things are said in campaign season here. We call the silly season we're getting into here in the U.S. Do you worry, as everyone tries to out-tough each other on China, that Taiwan is left in the middle as this political football? Would you, for instance, welcome a delegation with the Speaker of the House, a visit from Mike Johnson? We remember what happened last time a speaker went to Taiwan.
Well, again, the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, very staunch defender of democracy and human rights, she made the trip to Taiwan about 2 years ago. And again, the Chinese PRC is trying to blame her for causing all the tensions. Yeah. But actually, there's been previous visits by U.S. speakers to Taiwan. Mm-hmm. And they're just trying to find excuses to act up against Taiwan, be it a visit from a prominent figure from the United States or other countries, be it a presidential inauguration, etc. So that's not the root cause of why we have tensions in the Taiwan Straits. It is Beijing who is doing that. It is Beijing who are sending the ships. It is Beijing who are sending the fighters around Taiwan. It is they who are creating all the tensions in the Taiwan Straits. So, no, I think both. You know, we are good partners, we're good friends, United States and Taiwan. So I think both sides will want to work what is best for Taiwan and for the peace stability of Taiwan.
We appreciate your sitting down with us, Representative Tah-ray Yui. Good luck tomorrow night when you throw the first pitch at the Nats game.
Thank you.
Started practicing yet? Are you ready?
Thank you for doing an ad for me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure, sir.
This is Bloomberg.